Hey Scott, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. Hello.
Beautiful week in Silicon Valley.
Yes,
Rain's coming back, but at least we got some sunny days.
absolutely.
So, uh, we're going to keep this short because you got a busy day. I think the big news right now is Netflix. It's been a hot company. It was all involved in that Warner Brothers deal, and then they terminated it. And so the company looks like it's doing real well. It really beat Wall Street expectations for the first quarter because it recorded a big jump in earnings per share, thanks in part to that termination fee on the Warner Brothers deal. But then this week, the company announced that founder Reed Hastings, co-founder and current chairman, would exit the board in June when his term expires. Now, did you see that one coming?
I mean, sort of. He had stepped down as CEO. He wasn't nearly as active in the past few years. I think he gave the company and shareholders a wonderful gift when he backed out of the WB deal.
Yep.
Not only did it bring a couple billion to the Netflix coffers, but that's just a mess. Netflix does what it does. It doesn't need to get involved with a struggling studio. I think Reed Hastings' legacy, and this is as someone who talked to him since the early days of Netflix, is going to be that of a Silicon Valley hero who really changed the game. He changed Hollywood. He changed the tech industry. And, perhaps not a hero to movie studios, but really the way that distribution, that movies get to us, that entertainment comes to our homes and our mobile devices, he really changed everything.
Yeah, when you consider where they started,
Yeah.
it's amazing. How long has he been running the place? 20 years? 25 years?
Yeah, I mean, they went public and he had founded it more than 25 years ago. And it just really, and so we're going back to the days where you would get the Netflix DVDs in the mail. And even that was, whoa, look at this. You can set up a queue and get these movies one after another and watch them and then send them back. And, there was a misstep in the transition from discs to streaming. Remember, he tried to come up with a separate company. He
Yeah.
moved that aside quickly. The stock recovered, and it has been just a juggernaut since, both in terms of what it does in the industry, but also in terms of the wealth created for its investors and employees.
Yeah, he's one of the few guys around here, guys or gals, that as CEO navigated major technological revolutions almost seamlessly. And when he didn't quite get it right, he fixed it fast.
Yeah, and it wasn't just navigating the changes; he brought the changes. That's kind of
Yeah,
rare.
yeah,
I mean, you
especially
could
in streaming.
say,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And now he's producing stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how often I go on Netflix, on the
right, right.
Netflix channel, because there's a lot of crap, but there's also a lot of good stuff, and it's getting better by the year.
Well, Netflix was also not the first to spend big money. I mean, I remember as a young person, HBO was spending money on these movies, and it was like, whoa, they're not made in the theater. They're actually shown on television. So they did that first, but Netflix really streamlined even that process to the point where, sure, it's a Silicon Valley company, but it has so much clout, not to mention so many employees in Hollywood. But they really, I think of Netflix and Starbucks as sort of hand in hand. There was coffee before Starbucks, there were movies before Netflix, but the delivery, the convenience, the sort of gifting of these things that we got from those two companies, and just the wealth created by doing it differently, they're really both hand in hand, and both have been fairly recession proof. Every time the economy tanks, people say, well, I guess I'll just be staying home and Netflixing more. So you even see these guys growing during times when the economy struggles.
Well, more than that, the lag time between movie introductions, premieres, and when it appears on Netflix is getting shorter and shorter. And frankly, if I had a choice, if I'm not really jonesing for popcorn that day, I would rather just wait a couple days and spend the money sitting at home watching something on Netflix than go into the theater.
Well, sure, you're not alone in that. I mean, some of us still love the theater experience, but I appreciate Netflix and what they do. And one of the interesting things that you bring up is not only the amount of time between a movie going into a theater and then coming home, but so often we see a release and it can be a major release with major stars and a huge budget. And we have to check twice to find out, is this coming to theaters or is this just something that Netflix did on its own with major stars and a major budget? And boom, there it is for streaming. Or if it's a series, boom, there's an entire season. It really changes how we consume these products.
Yeah, I also think they pioneered the limited run series because there was a lot of major movie stars that wouldn't do TV at all because first of all, it took up too much time to do a whole season. But when you have 4 parts, 5 parts, and then you revisit it the next year, like Landman or one of those, that became a real career strategy for even A-list stars.
Yeah, I remember when we would see Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright in a DC drama, and you're thinking, well, this would make a movie, right? I mean, these are two gigantic stars, and instead it becomes a series. And Netflix really pioneered things with that. It wasn't the first, obviously, to put movies on the screen. You had HBO and Showtime and all those guys, but the idea of a really high gloss, high budget series became very popular as something that Netflix would do only for its subscribers. And so
Yeah.
it became something we all looked forward to. And the idea of putting an entire season out there and therefore binge watching something is also at least partially because of Reed Hastings and Netflix.
Yeah, I've been known to do that quite a bit.
Sure.
Well, I think it's a statement that after such really good news, followed by Hastings' announcement, the shares of Netflix stock fell about 9% in extended trading right after his announcement. That shows you how much the world thinks he's responsible, and it's going to be very different after he leaves.
It might be. I think that's a bit of an overreaction on Wall Street's part. Hastings stepped away from the day-to-day part of the company. He's on the board. And so I think it's more in the hands of, say, Ted Sarandos. And I think Hastings took pains to put that in play already. But, Wall Street is Wall Street. It reacts with emotion. And the idea that Hastings stepping away from anything is bad news is very well earned. I mean, the guy was
Yeah.
a real trailblazer and a real, very well-respected leader.
I mean, even on the board, he was still the eminence grise of Netflix. I'm going to miss seeing him walking with his cohorts, his coterie, down Winchester Boulevard in the middle of the day every day for his exercise.
Yeah, he was, as someone who covers this stuff, he was for a long time quite reachable, considering how successful he was. And I remember him walking me through the Netflix, warehouses. They were transitioning from DVDs to streaming and just pointing out how much he'd miss the envelopes and all that stuff. And you could tell he really loved what he does.
Okay, coming up is the Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple in June, and it's already leaking out details of 4 new features for iOS 27. It was actually, once again, somebody hacked in, found the back end code, and then Mac Rumors confirmed it. Mac Rumors magazine or website. First, Apple allegedly has 2 new features for visual intelligence in the works. First, the company is developing the ability to scan nutrition labels and learn more about the ingredients. As I cough, this might integrate into Apple Health app for food tracking purposes. That was also reported to be in development. And visual intelligence is also set to add a new feature that lets you add new people, phone numbers, and addresses to your contacts by scanning them, as on a business card. So that's one. I mean, it's minor, but every little bit helps. And then in Safari, iOS 27 is going to add an AOL AI feature automatically naming tab groups for users based on the contents of the tab. Once again, a minor one. And then most interesting, I think, is reportedly an upgrade is set for Apple Wallet. And it says the rumors say will add support for converting physical passes to digital passes in the wallet. So if you have a gym membership barcode, you get a digital version of it. And it'll also work with things like rock concerts, reward cards, and more. So in terms of ease of use, that's kind of a breakthrough. I like that one. What do you think?
I mean, they're all fairly minor, I think, given what you can
Oh,
do.
yeah, they're minor, but, little things sometimes in daily use turn into big things.
Yeah, I think AI is going to play a role in what Apple does, but I think Apple has played the AI card just right by not really playing it all that much. This is the great delivery system of our time, maybe the great delivery system of all time, talking about the iPhone. And
Yeah.
it's going to use AI more. It's going to use Gemini. It's going to, lean on other companies, probably for the best. And so you'll be able to talk to it like you talk to Siri, but enter things, get data, find things. That all makes sense. I just think those are going to be really minor tweaks in a system that Apple wants you to use more often. It wants you to talk to your phone more and talk to Siri more, without having to necessarily bring up the OpenAI app or the Anthropic app. But there's going to be some push and pull on that because these apps are really good and they want Apple and the iPhone to be their delivery system.
Absolutely. We'll get to Anthropic versus OpenAI in a couple moments here. While everybody's been focusing on NVIDIA, and it was down 0.26% yesterday, we haven't been looking that hard at AMD, and AMD is on a tear, and so is Broadcom. AMD closed up 7.8% at $278.26 Thursday afternoon, and that beats its prior record of 264. So it's actually set a new record high, and it's obviously it's capitalizing on the broad market optimism out there, but still, it's 12 consecutive rising days, its longest win streak since 2005, and the stocks are up 200. AMD stock is up 218% over the last 12 months, and 30% so far this year. That's pretty impressive, especially when questions have risen about AI and worries and all of that. It's just NASDAQ is loving these AI companies right now. It set a new record this week. But we haven't noticed them. We're all focused on NVIDIA because it's the superstar. But, looking at the victories of these other companies is cause for optimism, I think. What do you think?
Right. I mean, another company that's been on a winning streak, hitting all-time highs, is Intel. Can you imagine when we're talking about Intel and AMD as two of the hottest companies? Like, what are we in the year 1998? This is amazing.
Yeah, shades of Bob Noyce and Jerry Sanders in the
Sure. And
60s.
right, you bring up other chip companies, Broadcom doing really well. Look at the chip makers, KLA Tencor, Applied Materials, Lam Research. These guys are all at all-time highs or very near them. The idea that chips and chip equipment are once again front and center because of yet another big trend, that being AI, is really impressive. And so, sure, NVIDIA makes the most money out of it, and they have a nearly $5 trillion market cap, as you and I speak on Thursday night. But some of these other companies are following right along, and it has been an incredible ride that even as the overall economy shudders because of energy prices and concerns about the war and things like that and tariffs, the chips, the building blocks for the whole AI thing have really stayed very, very strong.
Well, when you think about the war in Iran is kind of a big advertisement for the value of AI.
I mean, sort of. I think it's more, people are noticing that more with the energy prices and gas prices in their wallets. But you'd think that because of that, the market would have tumbled more. And
Yeah.
we did get a pretty significant hit to the stock market, especially the Dow. But a lot of these companies have come back. As you and I speak again on Thursday night, the Dow back up and around 48,000, NASDAQ and S&P hitting records, AI once again, the engine driving this economy. And it doesn't necessarily make sense that that would happen during wartime, but it really shows that the American economy in lots of ways is so strong and resilient, and the American consumer is continuing to spend through all this.
I'm always happy when I see uh, the stock go up for companies like KLA and Applied Materials, because those guys they're the most, arguably, they're the most important companies in the American economy, and yet they're always the tail of the dog. They're always last into a boom and first out because they depend upon the semiconductor industry, and that's so cyclical, at least until lately, that I always feel like they deserve good karma because if they didn't keep moving the technology along, the Nvidias and the AMDs and even the Intels couldn't build this stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, in 2010, so we're coming back. We're starting to see tech growth. KLA 10 core traded in the 30s. Fast forward to now, it's $1,740 a share. I mean, these companies are just incredible in how they have grown. And to invest in these things in the long term has been an amazing thing. And they've never been the sexiest, but they've always been perhaps, like you say, the most important, the driver of all of this stuff.
Let's talk a little bit about the new generation of AI platforms. Claude Mythos, we talked about last week. It was introduced on April 7th, and now OpenAI is coming out with a new version 2 called Codex. It's a revamp of its Codex. The next generation's coming out, and it seems to be terrifying everybody, apparently except the U.S. government. It turns out that the government is looking at installing Claude Mythos, Anthropic Mythos in all of its agencies. And yet at the same time, I read an essay by a guy who was sitting in a conference, and he was presenting a paper on how nation to nation hacking, the barriers are getting lower and lower to success. And then he thought he had a definitive prediction of what was going to happen next. And then all of a sudden that afternoon, Claude Mythos was introduced, and he said, I basically threw the paper out because everything has now changed. Because Mythos is so powerful as an analytic tool that you're going to be able to penetrate most security and basically shut down the government if you want to. If you're a bad agent out there like China, you're going to have greater access than ever before. And then meanwhile, the New York Times came out with a story saying Anthropic Mythos AI, it's the end of the internet as we know it. That kind of gives you shivers. And then now OpenAI has announced its new version upgrade of Codex with significant additional powers. Is it really as dangerous as people are predicting? And is it really the end of the internet as we know it?
I mean, you've heard that now for about 3, almost 4 years, very consistently. And the internet seems to be doing pretty well. So I think those who would say AI will be nothing, and then on the other end, AI will destroy the universe, I think we just need to figure that the two poles are nowhere near happening.
Yeah,
AI
but
is
we
clearly
seem to
making.
be moving the median a little bit more towards the end of the universe lately with these new announcements.
I mean, but you and I just spent 15 minutes talking about how, because of investment and even job creation, dare I say, AI is moving our economy forward, even in
Yeah.
anxiety ridden times. I wouldn't call that the end of the world. I'd call that a lot of wealth creation, even job creation. So, where do these people come from? I understand the risks of AI, but I wouldn't say that we're moving more towards that if it's used in a careful way. I mean, I'd say the same thing about social media. Boy, it can bring friends together. If used wrong, you've got all this anxiety, you've got people bullying each other, you've got hate speech that's being magnified. I mean, technology deserves its backlash because it's not careful. But if you use it well, it can create a lot of good things.
Um, what about the end of the universe, end of the internet as we know it? I mean, these things have these new AI programs seem to have the potential to actually pull us away from search and I mean, typing into the computer what you want, or even talking into the computer. These seem to be on the brink of being able to just take over the internet and provide you with whatever you need
Right,
instantly.
but they have to find out what you want first. And so if you're
Yes.
not typing that in or talking to something, it's only guessing. And we've seen it guess wrong constantly.
Yeah.
So the internet as we know it is still as effective and only as effective as what we put in. So I think the way that we get our information is changing, sure. And that's not necessarily bad. I don't have problems with a search bar, but if I can just say, hey Siri or hey OpenAI or whatever, Gemini is going to spit me out some cool information, maybe a fraction of a second faster than a search engine would, but the internet as we know it still feels kind of similar.
Well, one of the things we noticed in the shift from microprocessors to microcontrollers was we were able to finally embed uh, advanced microprocessor technology in everything and make it autonomous increasingly. Now, if Mythos and the new codecs are as powerful as they seem, will we see that where we just talk to the walls, where we're anywhere, and we just ask a question into the air, and it's going to respond quickly?
Potentially, I wouldn't be surprised if, because we have cars now where you just say where you want to go and it comes up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, phones do that. You can make an order, you can make travel plans, you can map out a whole vacation or have AI map out a whole vacation just by saying some prompts. That's not going anywhere. I would still suggest you double check everything it does before you
Yeah.
hop on that first plane, but it's really turning out to be a very helpful tool. But there are privacy concerns because that helpful tool now has all that information on you and can be hacked. So, like any technology advancement, it can be helpful, it can make things more convenient, but we have to be careful about what it knows about us.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain occasions where I've been in like emergencies. You're out in the woods and, somebody breaks their leg or something, and you're trying to remember what you learned in Boy Scouts 40 years ago. And to be able to get that information and save a life through, other media too. I mean, through other platforms, maybe your watch, maybe your backpack, you know, uh, would be very valuable. But when everything I say is going to be overheard, that's a big problem.
Yeah, so don't carry devices where everything you say is going to be overheard.
Yeah, exactly. But we will, we will eventually because it's just so easy. And this is like, it's getting to the point that it's unbelievably easy. I find myself using the AI bar on Google continuously, especially when I'm writing books and I can't remember some stat or something. Boom, I have it in seconds. And when I wrote my first book 30 years ago, I had to go down to the Sunnyvale City Library and spend 5 cents a page on the Xerox machine to get one fact. And now it's there, before my fingers stop moving. And I like that, but I can see how you become dependent upon it. So, that's it for now this week, folks. You can see Scott in the usual places, NBC Bay Area, X, and Meta. And you can see me wherever. You can see me on the street, shopping for groceries.
With Reed Hastings.
With Reed Hastings. Yeah, maybe I'll go get a Starbucks with him. And we can talk about his next venture. Because I know he's always he's always in contact with everything. I hear about him all over the valley all the time. And a lot of people know him, and he has a huge network. So we'll see if he can if he can actually retire, or he's got something else up his sleeve. And as for you and me, and our listeners, we'll see you next week, maybe on the far side of the internet as we know it. So bye-bye.